Bonjour, 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 and welcome or welcome back to the Waves of Your Soul. I am your humble French tarot reader slash deck goblin Marine. Today I'm so excited to be doing one of my favorite videos to film all year long and one of my most requested on my channel as well, which is my top 10 tarot decks of 2024. We are here, you guys. I don't really know where 2024 has gone, but it's here. The end of the year is here. We are deep into Tarot Vlogmas, which I do every December, where I post a lot of content on tarot and oracle decks. This year I'm also posting fairy tale inspired pick a card readings because I'm trying to bring some magic back into our lives. I am just doing the most I can to bring some good vibes and some enjoyment to you guys for the end of the year. And every year I do these ranking videos because they're fun. They're a nice way for me to look back on what I've loved. Some years I have top 5, some years I have top 10. It depends on what came up to my collection and how much I loved what came in or not. This year it was so hard, you guys, to make it a top 10. I have had many arguments in my mind at night trying to fit 20 decks into a top 10. Couple of disclaimers before we get into it, as I think it's important. First thing is that whilst these are my favorites for 2024. Not all of these decks came out in 2024. Actually, a lot of them did not, but they were new to me this year. So that's why I've been including them as this year's ranking. So there will be some newer decks here and some older decks. The second thing I want to mention, which kind of ties into that, is that the reason why there's so many older decks is that for me it's harder to get my hands on newer decks due to where I live. Those of you who don't know, I live on a tropical island in the Indian Ocean called Reunion. Hostage to where I live takes months, sometimes even over a year. So that obviously is gonna affect the kind of decks I'm gonna share, because if you've watched my channel before, you know I'm not the person that will review a deck as soon as it comes out. As for me, it can take months to get my hands on it. Kind of continue on this theme, a lot of this year's decks are indie decks because this year it was actually easier for me to order directly from creators. They were more willing to ship to Reunion and to find places that would ship English mass market decks to me. We don't have Amazon in Reunion. We also now have lost Book Depository, which was my main place where I could order a mass market decks before. And I only discovered Werewaves, which is a website that does deliver English mass market decks to me halfway through the year. I think when I found out about Werewaves, it was like July or August. And again, even ordering from their English mass market decks takes months of shipping. It's been harder for me to get my hands on mass market decks, which is why a lot of this, the majority of the rankings today, are gonna be indie. And if you are on a budget, I do recommend you check out my top 10 oracle decks video, which is gonna come out later on my channel, as there will be a lot more options of mass market decks in my oracle one. Talking about that, all the names of the decks I'm mentioning today are gonna be in the description box. So if you're curious, if you are like, what the heck is this French frog saying, it's all in the description box, all the names of them, if you want to check that out. And the last disclaimer I want to make before we get into this, the most important I think thing to say, is that this is a very personal ranking. For those of you for whom it maybe it's the first video you watch of me, you should know that I'm a big chaotic deck goblin, meaning that I have a very eclectic taste. I'm really not one of those tarot YouTubers who is very into historical decks or very into, I don't know, darker decks. My tastes are very eclectic. That also means that this ranking that I'm going to share with you today is super personal. It is extremely biased. This is absolutely not recommendations video of what I think are the best tarot decks that came out this year for the general public, but it is a ranking of the top 10 decks that made me feel something, that challenged me as a reader and made me grow as a reader, that brought something of value to my tarot practice, that made me feel certain things, that brought me joy, that expanded my view of the world, that just changed the way I read the cards. These are really what I was looking for here in terms of ranking them, not necessarily is this something I would recommend to someone else, because this is very personal. You will see that I've ranked these because I'm a glutton for punishment and I like to make my life harder. So I think it's fun exercise to rank them. It doesn't really mean anything. If these are in the top 10, they are really great decks. I just want you guys to know that just because I've put a tarot deck at number 10, it doesn't mean it's less good than another one. Honestly, if they've made the top 10, these are all decks that I believe in, that I really feel passionate about. So I don't want you guys to take the ranking too seriously. It's just a fun exercise for me, but that's all it is. Be the fairest possible. I have not included any decks in my rankings that I've gotten since roughly end of November. I want these to be as fair as possible, even though they're very biased. And if I was to include decks that I'd gotten towards the end of the year, they are more fresh in my memory. I'm using them right now at the time of me filming, like we're in December, I'm still using them, so it wouldn't feel fair to mention decks that I've gotten so recently, because it feels like they could eclipse the ones that I worked with at the beginning of the year, and I'm trying to be as fair as possible. And also I feel like decks that I've gotten towards the end of the year, I still haven't really made my full opinion. I want to include here only decks that I've worked for months with, not just a few weeks. So we're gonna get into it. As I said, all the names of the decks are gonna be in the description box below. You're gonna find as well my social media links. I mostly hang out on YouTube and Instagram, so you can check it out if you want to spend time together. That's where you'd find me. Plenty of content coming on the channel in December, so it's a great time to subscribe. And I'll also put my ranking for last year if you're curious. I know it's fun to go back and check it out. So without further ado, let's get into it. My top 10 tarot decks of 2024. Let's do it. We will start with honorary mention, and yes, I still don't know how to say honorary. You guys, you know I struggle every year with that word. The French comes out and I suddenly don't know how to pronounce my H's. Every year I have little honorary mentions that I felt it wasn't fair to bring to the top 10 for a reason or another that I will share with you guys. Still really blew my mind this year, and that I feel like I want to shout out because they definitely had a huge impact on me. First one is a deck that honestly blew me away. I'm constantly using this one. Right now it's my go-to. It's replaced mostly all of my other RWS, and that is the JK Tarot. This is by Tarot Collectibles. This is a re-edition of the Jupiter King Tarot, which was a deck that was published in the 70s by a Japanese creator. This year Tarot Collectible, who are a UK indie creator, again I'll make sure to leave everything in the description box, they got the rights to reprint this whilst they had been out of print for years, and this is literally a RWS rendition in new colors that was done by this Japanese artist back in the 70s, I think, on my new favorite RWS. The only reason why it's not in my top 10 is because it is an RWS and I always have one of those on my desk. And honestly this year it was already hard enough to just pick 10, that if I was to take a spot with an RWS, I was like, no, you gotta give me something. You gotta give me some room to breathe, because I always have an RWS version or another on my desk. I didn't want to take up one of my top 10 spots for it. It felt like, you know, I just argued with my little deck goblin self. If I was to choose my favorite RWS of the year, this absolutely is that. It has completely eclipsed all of my other ones, and God knows I have a few that I adore and love, as the RWS in itself is my favorite system. It's just a comfort blanket for me. It's what I always go back to when I want clear, easy to read with kind of tarot deck. You know, it's like if you're a Marseille lover, for example, every year in your top 10 there would be a Marseille deck, right? This is the one for this year, the JK Tarot. Absolutely fantastic. So glad that Tarot Collectible managed to get the rights to reprint this. It's beautiful. Love those colors. Continuing with the honorary mention, I have a couple of decks that arrived too late in my tarot collection to be included in my top 10, but that I really want to still shout out. So every year I decide to not include anything that I get from like end of November, middle of November in my rankings, just to try and make this ranking the fairest possible, even though it's still, like I was saying in the intro, very biased and very personal. So two decks that come in that category that for me kind of arrive later, but that have been blowing my mind at the end of the year, for me deserve a shout out, because I really could see them being favorite for 2025 when I do my ranking next year. The first one is the Botan Tarot. I got this right at the end of November, I think, and honestly, what a gorgeous deck. So this is an indie deck. It's the second edition, a watercolor deck with Japanese inspiration, and it's honestly been one of my favorite decks to use since, like I was saying, like end of November and then the whole month of December. I did not want to include this in my top 10 because it's so fresh, because it's so recent, and because it didn't feel fair to my other decks to to include something that I've not worked with for as long as the others, but my god, this is so special, and has it been blowing my socks off. Absolutely gorgeous artwork. The energy of this is super gentle, very kind. It feels like it whispers, it doesn't feel like it shouts. It's very soothing, calming energy. If I had to give a Major Arcana to this deck, it would be a Temperance. I think it suits it really well. So this is one I've been using towards the end of the year. Absolutely loving it. I really wanted to like shout out. I definitely could see this as being in my favorite of 2025. For now, it is in my honorary mention. Another honorary mention that I got towards the end of the year is the Supernova Tarot. This is a mass market deck by Los Scarabeo. And again, the only reason why this is not in my top 10 is because I got it towards the end of the year, so it didn't feel quite fair. So cool. This is such a cool deck. It's vibrant, it's bold, it's queer, full of badass, vibrant energy. Compared to the Botan Tarot, they are on two ends of the spectrum. This one, if it was a Major Arcana, I think it would be a magician, honestly. It does give a little bit of that magician vibe, very in your face, very bold, very badass, very fierce. It's glorious. I love the artwork. I love the guidebook as well. Whilst it's, you know, one of those Los Scarabeo guidebooks that it's not the biggest, it does have some fantastic information as to why the artist depicted certain things, why the symbolism. I love all the depictions of people here. I love the fashion. It has definitely a point of view. It has a voice. I wanted to give it a shout out. Whilst it's not part of the top 10, it's definitely an awesome deck and one you can get mass market, so we love that. Finally, the last two decks out of my honorary mentions are decks that were made by people that I really appreciate and respect and that I consider friends, right? So of course I can't include them in my top 10 because that is not fair. But oh my god, are both of these part of my favorites of the year? Absolutely. I'm in love with both of these decks for different reasons, so let's talk about it. The first one is made by a very dear friend of mine, Angie from A Cup of Tarot here on YouTube. I'll make sure to leave her YouTube channel down below. You can get this deck on Make Playing Cards. It's called the Sundar Tarot, and this was created by Angie with the help of AI to celebrate her Indian culture and Indian heritage. Now, Angie is one of my favorite people on TarotTube. She's become a very close friend since I've started my channel. I was like walking the path of her creating this deck with her. She was sending me like images along the way of her creating this. I feel like I followed the process from start to finish. I love this so much because it feels like it carries Angie's energy, because I love the fact that she has celebrated her culture with this, because I know that even though it's an AI deck, she spends so much time curating the images, editing the images, changing the images. She really put her soul and heart into this, in the creation of this, and researching elements of her culture and all of that. So of course I love this. I've used this deck so much. I've been promising you guys a walkthrough, and the only reason why I've not done one yet is because for me to do a walkthrough I would have to put the deck back in order and stop using it, and I can't stop using it. It's always on my desk. I use this constantly. I'm in love with this deck. I'm so proud of Angie for creating this, something that really resonates with her culture, and especially considering there really are not enough, in my opinion, tarot decks that celebrate Indian culture in general. So proud of my friend. I love this so much, but it didn't feel fair to rank this because I know that I can't dissociate this deck from my friendship with Angie. So I wanted to give it a huge shout out, and I wanted to tell Angie I'm so proud of her. These are all of the extra options. Look at this. It's fantastic. There's so many extra cards. You can really make the deck your own. Honestly, it's fabulous. So I wanted to absolutely shout it out as one of my favorite decks of the year because I love this. I'm using this constantly for myself. I will definitely be making a walkthrough of this. I just need to like stop using this so I can put it back in order and film the video. But for now, it's just bringing me so much joy that it's constantly on my desk. So of course, this is one of my favorite tarot decks of the year. And the last of my honorary mention is another deck that I feel super passionate about, that I'm absolutely in love with, and that was also created by someone that I respect and cherish very much, which is the reason why I did not include it in my top 10, because again, it didn't feel fair. Like, if I have emotional attachment to the person who created a deck, it doesn't feel fair to put it up, especially if the deck is out of print, as I don't want to create FOMO for you guys. So this is why this is there. But trust me when I tell you this has been a huge favorite this year, and it is the Alter Tarot by Yena from Soul Shadow Tarot. Yena has 2 YouTube channels. She's a French tarot creator, YouTube content creator, tarot teacher. She is amazing. She's like my favorite person to watch on YouTube. I've followed Yena's journey on YouTube from, I think, pretty much the beginning. I'm super grateful for everything that she does. She's one of the most generous people that I have had the chance to connect with on YouTube. She's constantly sharing with us on both of her channel, and I'll leave them both below. She shares obviously tarot readings. She has created beautiful decks. She has some amazing courses. A lot of them are free on her channel, which is something I don't see many people doing. She shares of her person in everything she does, and you can feel it in all of her creation. So the Alter Tarot was her latest creation from this year. Another one that was created with the help of AI, but that was again so much thought behind it, so much effort put behind it, because this is actually a hybrid between a tarot deck and playing cards with a traditional cartomancy system. So you can see here at the bottom we have the tarot meaning, general tarot meaning, and at the top we have the equivalent from traditional cartomancy. And as you can see here, she's linked all of the suits of the tarot to the traditional cartomancy suits. So we have like cups for hearts, wands with diamonds, etc. So this is a hybrid. I'd never seen this sort of hybrid done before, this mix of tarot with playing cards. I think it's genius. I know she's gonna cringe if she watches this, because I know she doesn't like to be praised too much, but honestly this is a genius deck. I'm sorry, Yena, you have to take my compliment here. This is absolutely genius, mixing traditional playing cards with tarot. This is one of the decks that I've used this year that is the most accurate. This reads like a dream. It just goes straight to the core of the issue, and like I said, everything Yena does is very of generous spirit, super passionate with what she does. I'm just really impressed by her creativity, by her intelligence, and this is definitely an awesome deck. So this is currently out of print. Most of Yena's decks are very limited releases, and so I didn't want to put it as part of my top 10 because again I didn't want to create FOMO for you guys, and because just like for Angie's deck, you know, I wouldn't feel fair to put like the people I appreciate so much in my rankings, as I know I'm really biased, but I did want to give this a moment in the limelight because I've used this a lot for myself behind the scenes. I've not used it for you guys in pick a card readings, but I will use this for, I think, my zodiac readings for 2025. I'll definitely use this for one of the signs. I want to share it with you guys. It's not fair I keep it for myself. Top 10. We are gonna start from number 10 and walk our way through to number 1. So at number 10 we have a mass market tarot deck that I really enjoyed this year. Of course, but like I said, all of these are amazing. If they've made it into this video, it means they are the best of the best. So at number 10 I've put the Tarot Landscape by Francesca Matteoni, illustrations by Yoshi Mary. This is a mass market deck from Vivida, and this is a nature-based deck which is really awesome. The guidebook in this one is fantastic. You get really beautiful messages, not too much, but the way it's written is very poetic and profound, and the depictions in this are quite unique. This is not a deck that follows very closely a traditional system like the RWS or like the Marseille or anything like that. It kind of has in some cards its own interpretation, always in this beautiful landscape, right? You will see always though that in the cards, whilst the majority of the card is landscape, there is always a little animal present, but often the animal is very small and you have to try and spend time noticing it, as the main image is always focused on the landscape. And I'm a huge nature lover. I love animal decks, I love nature decks. They are for me the way that I connect to spirit, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. For me, my spirituality is linked to my work with nature. It's how I connect to something that's larger than me. It's very important for me to work with nature decks. This one is definitely one that has brought me a lot of beautiful readings. I loved reading with this as well for other people. I don't know anyone who has had a reading with this who doesn't like it. It feels like a breath of fresh air, this deck. You know, taking a walk in the forest and you can finally sigh of relief because you're away from the noise. I've really enjoyed it this year. The only reason why it's not higher is because I have another nature deck very high. You will see it towards the podium, and between the two I do prefer the second one, but this one, like I said, if it's made the top 10, it's already fantastic. I think if you guys decide to pick this up, you will not be disappointed. It's mass market, it's fairly affordable, the guidebook is fantastic. This is a really beautiful deck, I think, for especially if you're looking for something quite soothing and and something very introspective, because this is not a very, like, there's no people really in this deck, so it's not necessarily a deck I would use for like day-to-day things or questions about interpersonal relationships or anything like that, but for introspection, personal development, potentially, like I was saying, connecting to spirit, the universe, something like that. This is beautiful for that. This was actually a deck I had put in my top 5 halfway through the year when I did a top 5, I think around July, and I did a top 5 video where I was thinking about the decks that I already made an impact and wondering, will the top 5 decks I had midway through the year, would they make it towards the end of the year in my top 10? And this one definitely did. I still enjoy this one just as much as I did back then. Definitely a favorite for 2024. Let's move on to number 9. For number 9 we have an indie deck. It is the Lost Forest Tarot. This is by Chelsea Santa Maria. This is a Kickstarter I had backed in 2023 that got to me towards the beginning of this year, and you can get this now directly on the artist website. It comes with not a full guidebook, but one of those that, you know, you can take out a few keywords, few key sentences for each of the cards. Not much, but is enough, because it gives you a little bit of a description of what is going on in the card. And this is a very unique tarot deck. It's very unique. It really does not follow traditional systems or anything like that. It does its own thing, not just in the way it looks, but in its interpretation. The unique part of this deck is that for all of the suits, when you put them together, it creates a story. So if you put like Ace of Wands all the way up to the King of Wands, you will see a whole story, a whole world. Same thing for the suit of Earth, of Water, etc. And the main theme of this deck is that it is just like a forest. You're in this beautiful magical forest, magical beings. For the cup of suit, for example, it's all oceans, so we have mermaids and we have different fish and things like that. For the air suit, we are in the sky, so we have like birds, things like that. But everything is set in this magical, fantastical world, and it is absolutely gorgeous. This was not created with AI, it was all created by the artist herself, and I am so in love with the artwork. The only reason why it's not higher in my ranking is because it is so different. It does do its own thing. It's a deck that, whilst I've loved reading it for myself, has a very introspective kind of quality to it. And so that means that for me, I need to be in a specific mood to read with this, right? It's not necessarily a deck I would pick up all the time. I've noticed that whilst I absolutely love reading this for myself, I've not read with this for anyone, I don't think. Maybe I did a pick a card for you guys, but in terms of, you know, one-on-one reading, I've not used this one yet because it feels like I still need to get to know it even better, even though I really used this a lot this year. If you look at the edges, you would see that it's definitely already been well used, well shuffled, but I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface. But my god, is it gorgeous, and does it give really unique, interesting readings. And I love that sometimes when you get cards that are from the same suit, that you can put them next to each other, it tells a story. That's a really nice little like added golden nuggets that you can get. It's beautiful, it gave me wonderful reading. It's just a deck that I feel like I need to keep working with, to be even more familiar with, as it's quite mysterious. I will say it is very mysterious. This, if I had to give this a major arcana, it would be a Hermit. I think it suits it well. Let's move on to number 8. For number 8, we have another huge favorite. I mean, like I said, all of these are favorites. The Alchemical Tarot Renewed by Robert M. Place. This is a deck I got right at the beginning of the year. I bought this when I went to London. So even just like purchase of this deck is very special to me, because I was with my best friend and I finally went to a tarot shop I'd been wanting to go for ages. The whole energy of this deck is infused with this beautiful experience I had acquiring it. But not only that, this is a deck I really enjoyed this year for, again, not necessarily using it for others, more so for myself, the way to challenge myself as a reader. This is definitely a deck that has challenged me and made me grow as a tarot reader, and this is why I'm so appreciative of it, because I love learning. I love like expanding my vision of tarot, and I love going outside my comfort zone, and I think this deck made me do all of these things. And yet it was also a lot more easy to read with than I had anticipated, because I thought that when I got this deck, I thought, oh, you're gonna have to do a very big study of this, and I couldn't get the book that comes with this at the time because of suitcase space. The book is huge, it's super heavy, and I had to make a choice. I was like, either the deck or the book. So I got the deck and I was like, okay, maybe I can work with this. If not, I'll have to get the book. I ended up ordering the book anyway because I still really want it. It hasn't arrived to me at this time of me filming this video, but it's on its way. But I have been working with this deck for the whole year without the accompanying book, and I've had no problem reading with this. It really did not require a huge study. It's way more like fluid and intuitive than I had anticipated, and it's absolutely beautiful. I love Robert M. Play's artwork. I love his work, so it was a no-brainer really that this was gonna be part of my favorite. I'm super excited to be getting my hands on the book really, and that's the only reason why this is not higher, is because I really want to, when the book finally arrives to me, do a huge in-depth study with this and really get to know it inside out and read all the little details about this. But already, considering I didn't have the accompanying guidebook, I read with this a lot. And this really, like I said, pushed me outside of my comfort zone and yet was very intuitive. I've loved reading with this towards the first quarter of the year. January to May, April, this was constantly on my table. I thought it was super intuitive. It was way more easy to read than I thought. Like I said, it really did not require a huge study for me to get on with this, but I am very excited to do the big study. The name Alchemical Tarot, this is a very alchemy based deck, and I think this has potential for becoming part of my favorite occult decks, so we should see when the book arrives. I'm very excited to do a deep study of this deck, but already intuitively this blew me away. I had so many great readings, specifically career readings with this one, so love this one. I'm probably very biased because I do really like Robert M. Play's work. So that was the Alchemical Tarot Renewed. I have the 6th edition. At number 7 we have the Dream of Nile Tarot. This is an indie tarot deck by Emma Zheng, the creator of the Dream Vision Tarot, which is one of my all-time favorite decks. This is potentially the most beautiful deck I got in 2024, I think, in terms of production quality, the box, the guidebook, the cards, all the details, the artwork, everything. I think if I had an award for most beautiful deck of the year, this hands down would win this. It's absolutely stunning, really blows me away. Every time I use this, I feel like it's almost too beautiful for me to put my little gremlin goblin hands on. You know? I feel like it's almost too good for me, but I love this so much. It's on a theme that I'm very passionate about, which is Egyptian mythology, which is another reason why this is in my top 10. I love Egyptian mythology. Look at these backs. I mean, talk about a beautiful indie production. Everything here, whether it's the cardstock, the artwork, the way that the guidebook is formatted, which opens like this, like a papyrus kind of style. It's so well thought out. So much work was put into this. You can tell that Emma really pours her heart and soul into her creation. So as the name suggests, the Dream of Nile, this is an Egyptian mythology inspired deck. It's so beautiful. I absolutely adore the artwork. I think it's stunning. So for all of my Egyptian mythology lovers, don't sleep on this one. It's really well thought out for each of the cards, specifically the court cards and the majors. It will tell you in the guidebook who the divinities are. We have astrological symbolism as well on the card, so if you want to work with astrological references, you can. This is a Thoth adjacent deck. It's a deck that's inspired by the Thoth system, which is not normally my preferred system, and which really is the only reason why I've put it at number 7 and not higher, is because Thoth is not my kind of go-to system. That being said, it's super easy to read with, even for someone like me who's not very comfortable with the Thoth system. I was surprised again by how quickly I managed to connect with this deck, to read with this deck, even though it was inspired by a system that I'm not the most familiar with. Especially you can see the Thoth inspiration in the minors specifically. I realized that I could read with this a lot easier than I thought I could. So that was definitely a beautiful surprise. Probably the most beautiful deck I got my hands on this year. It's so stunning. The only reason why this is not higher is because, well, I had to rank it, I had to make it work, you know, you guys. I couldn't have like 10 top ones, that wasn't gonna work, so I had to find ways to justify myself. And this is definitely more of a pepish deck in the minors, which normally is not, again, my preferred system. So compared to like the other decks I'm gonna share with you guys the rest of the ranking, This is maybe not the one I would use the most often. I don't know if this would be an everyday deck, but when I want this Egyptian mythology feel, this has absolutely replaced all of my other Egyptian mythology decks. God knows I had quite a few, as this is a subject I'm super passionate about. I love mythology, specifically Greek and Egyptian mythology. The fact that it has eclipsed all of my other Egyptian decks is a good sign, I think. And look at this. So beautiful. So yeah, that's the Dream of Nile Tarot by Emma Zheng. Let's move on to number 6. Number 6 is not gonna be a surprise to any of you guys who've watched my channel this year, because I've talked about this deck non-stop. It was very high up in my good mood decks of 2024. I think it might even have been number 1. So if you've not seen my good mood decks, I will leave it in the card somewhere. It's the deck that brought me joy, all of that, the good mood, the feel good decks. This was number 1, and so of course it was gonna be part of my top 10 decks of the year, and that is the Little Avatar Tarot, another indie deck, this time by Push Kitty. Again, I'll make sure to leave all the information down below. This is a pop culture inspired deck. It is a deck inspired by the Avatar The Last Airbender anime, which is an anime that I discovered this year. The deck doesn't come with a guidebook, it just comes with a card, and I have the mini version, but you can get this in 2 sizes, the pocket edition or the larger regular tarot size edition. So Avatar The Last Airbender is an anime that was airing, I think, early 2000, which at the time I was not familiar with. But this year, after many of you told me I should check it out, that I would probably enjoy this anime, I decided to watch it, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the story, I fell in love with the characters. By the time you guys are watching this, I've done 2 rewatches throughout the year, so I've watched it once and then rewatched the whole thing. Such a beautiful story, not just for kids, and it's really not an anime just for kids. We have here in Avatar The Last Airbender themes of colonialism, of war, of value, of fighting for what you believe. We have like themes of spirituality. We have familial ties and how you make your own place in the world. It talks about friendship, about very heavy and important grown-up themes, right? That goes beyond kids TV show. I absolutely fell in love with this anime. I fell in love with the story, I fell in love with the characters, I fell in love with the world building. It brought me so much joy this year, this anime, that of course when I found the perfect tarot deck that went with it, it was a no-brainer that the tarot deck would also become a huge favorite, and I think Push Kitty really did the best Avatar related tarot deck I've seen. I've watched all the walkthroughs of the other ones. For me, this is the best because every single card makes so much sense. Once you've watched the anime, every card, every character, every court card makes sense. Avatar The Last Airbender goes so well with tarot because in that TV show, people are benders of different elements. We have airbenders, earthbenders, firebenders, which of course can correspond to the different suits in tarot. There are so much cool themes, spiritual related themes in Avatar The Last Airbender that really tie themselves so well to tarot, and this particular creation is for me the best deck that was created on this theme. There isn't one card that I disagree with. There is not one card that I'm like, I wish this was not the moment from the TV shows I was represented. No, every single card makes sense to me. Every single card resonates. So I absolutely adore this one. It had to be part of my top 10. I have the pocket edition because I couldn't get my hands on the normal size, but if I ever can get my hands on the normal size, I will, because I love this so much and I tend to prefer regular tarot size normally. This is just the only one I could get, and I'm obsessed. I've read with this so much this year. I've read this for friends as well who loved it. I've gotten so many of my friends hooked onto Avatar as well, and now they're obsessed. This is just a kind of fandom that I'm very grateful for. It brought me a lot of comfort and just joy this year, and of course this had to be part of my top 10, so love this one so much. And of course, if I have any fellow Avatar The Last Airbender fans, make sure to comment down below. Let me know what you guys love about the show. We are halfway through at number 5. Number 5, we have another very special deck. All of these are special. You probably guessed that by now. I'm very passionate about all of these. I believe very strongly in all of these. They all honestly tug at my heartstring for a reason or another. This one I think could be a bit of a surprise, but like I said at the beginning, I'm a chaotic deck goblin. My taste can vary so much, and you're probably gonna get whiplash between what I've just showed you, which was cute and based on a kids TV show, versus this one, which is honestly the complete opposite end of the spectrum. We have the Corrupted Tarot. Again, an indie deck. As the name suggests, the Corrupted Tarot This is a tarot deck that is kind of reversals only. All the depiction on this tarot deck are depicted as reversal, meaning as the corrupted version of that tarot card. So this is meant to be a very dark deck, a very shadowy deck, I would say. And this is an indie deck, if I didn't say. Indie deck by Wormwood. I think they're a gaming company originally. They do role-playing tabletop stuff, and I think last year they came out with this, but I could only get my hands on it this year. I really did not expect this to be in my top 10 when I bought this. I bought this because it was reversal only, meaning that every card is representing the obscure, the corrupted side of tarot. So when I got this originally, I really had intended this to be a very shadow work type deck, a deck that I would use for looking at my obstacles, looking at things we don't want to look at, things like that. I did not realize that I would use this for pretty much everything, that I ended up using this deck for months at a time, not getting bored of it, and definitely not just for shadow work type readings. I did not just use this for obstacle, looking at my fears, looking at my subconscious, looking at what I'm not seeing. I use this for everything. I use this for career type readings, everyday type of readings. I read with this for friends, for many different themes. And the thing is that this will show you potentially the truth you don't want to see, but that you need to hear. So whilst this looks very dark and creepy, I mean, look at this, it's a lot. I know this is definitely not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I think this is genius. I think they've done a really good job. Another huge surprise is for me to love this so much is that this is a collaborative deck, meaning that a different artist did every single card, and you can see there's definitely like huge differences between the art style. Normally for me that is a huge no. I really don't like collaborative decks. I struggle with them. They sometimes lack cohesion. This is one of the exceptions that makes that rule. I don't know why. I really do not struggle with the different art style, even though normally that's something that gets in the way for me. And I was thinking about this, and I think it's because with this, whilst the art style between different cards is so different, obviously because it's from different artists, the theme and cohesion comes from the common intention, which is to make this a corrupted deck, a reversal only deck, a deck that will only look at the obscure side of that tarot card. And because that intention is woven throughout the deck, it does bring a lot of cohesion. It does make this a fantastic reader. I really did not expect this to be a deck I would pull that much. I thought it was going to be a niche deck that I use only for shadow work kind of reading, and turns out I use this so much, a lot more than I had anticipated. Look at this Emperor. Oh my god. And I know a lot of you will love this, and I know a lot of you will hate this because some of these images are quite dark and obscure and definitely not for everyone. There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gore, but for me it's just such a good reader. It really like forces me outside of my comfort zone. It makes me push outside of my preconceived notion of tarot, and for that I'm grateful for it, and it makes me a better reader, I think. So I'm grateful for decks like this that push me outside my comfort zone. And this is where I was telling you, you know, beware of the whiplash. We just went from cute avatar deck to one of the most dark deck of my collection, and I love them all. Strap on, we're only halfway through, so let's continue. At number 4 we have a deck that's again very different to what I've showed you guys before. I told you, chaotic deck goblin, and that shows in all the decks I'm sharing with you. It's the main thing for me that is involved in making a deck special is, does it make me feel something? Does it push me outside my comfort zone? Does it make me a better reader? Does it challenges me? Does it open my mind? Does it help me grow? And this deck definitely fits all of that. And we have the Hide Tarot. This is a deck that was created by Dan Francis. It's an indie deck. I think Dan is based in the UK. Here are the backs, which I really love. This is absolutely one of the most unique tarot decks in my collection, and I have like 300 decks I think now, rounding up the end of the year. So you know your girl has been working with a lot of decks, has like manipulated a lot of decks, and yet this one definitely stands out in one of the most unique ones out there. This is almost a hybrid. I could have put this in my Oracle decks, to be honest, because as you can see, for each of the cards we have a tarot meaning, but we also have a key word. So this is a tarot oracle hybrid, I guess you could say. And the reason why it absolutely had to be in my top 10, it's because it's one of those decks that I think about even when I'm not using it. Like, it's left a very strong impression on me, and whilst it's not the deck I use the most in my collection, because as you can see it is very unique, it does not follow follow any of the traditional system. It's not an RWS, it's not a Tarot de Marseille, it's not a TOS. It does bring something very unique to my readings, and it does give me readings that once they're finished, I will continue thinking about even weeks after. So is it my most used of the year? No, because I have to be in a specific mood to want to work with this because it's so different. But when the mood is right, it is one of those that has made me feel the most emotional. And so it had to be in my top 10 because it really does something very unique. So as you can see, every single card is a black and white image that was created by Dan. And on each of the cards, you will have the tarot name of the card and you will have a keyword as to what is depicted. The reason why I feel so emotionally connected with this deck is because it reminds me of an old family album that you would stumble upon, and it would feel like you're peeking through someone's collection of treasures, right? It makes me think of like you find an old family album or you find a box of someone's treasures, and through looking at them you get to know them. This is a very powerful emotional deck. It feels like it speaks straight to your heart, right? And it feels like it speaks through not words but feelings, because the way when you read this, you have to completely shatter your knowledge of tarot and let the deck speak to you. Because yes, you could just look at Judgment and read it as a stereotypical Judgment card, but if you think about this card and you think about the peacock, what does the peacock make you think of in relation to Judgment? And maybe for you guys it's your favorite bird, maybe for someone else they're scared of peacocks, maybe for someone else it reminds them of their grandma because she loves peacocks, or maybe for some of you guys it reminds you of a day in your childhood when you saw a peacock at a farm. Everyone is going to have different emotional ties to these images, and that's the beauty of this deck, is that it really calls to your memories, calls to your subconscious, and speaks to your soul. So this deck does not give me readings in words. This deck gives me feelings. It gives me vibes. It gives me an inner knowing that I can't quite put into words, which is why I really wouldn't be able to use this every day because it would feel quite intense. But when I'm in that mood that I want to connect with my heart, with my inner self, this does a wonderful job, and it just makes me feel very emotional with this deck. I don't know why. The egregore of it is beautiful. It just has a very special energy. It's so special, very unique and very emotionally in tune. I think Dan created this when he was going through grief, and it's probably why this deck feels so emotionally in tune, because you can tell, yeah, it's a very heart-centered deck. If this deck was a Major Arcana, I think it would be a High Priestess, because it whispers to you, it doesn't shout, and because you have to sit with the cards to understand what they mean, and because you really have to trust your intuition with this one. I really adore this one, and it really left an impression on me. Okay, you guys, we're here. Top 3, it's the podium. Honestly, top 3. I feel very emotionally attached to all the decks I'm gonna share in my top 3, and it was the hardest thing for me to choose between top 3, top 2, top 1. So I'm gonna just put it out there that honestly, from now on, all of them could have been in my top 1. I just had to stop fighting with myself and arguing with myself at night. I needed to have a good night's sleep. I'm already thinking, oh no, but this could have been top 1, but also this could have been top 1. So we're just gonna do this. Just know that they're all amazing, okay? Let's talk about what I've put in my top 3. Another mythology inspired deck. You know, it's my jam. I love them. Of course, this had to be in my top 3. This is the Mythos Tarot by Asphodel. This is the first edition. It's an indie deck again. I told you guys, it was a lot easier for me to get my hands on indie decks than it was on mass market this year. I got this on Salon des Arcanes, which is a French-based tarot shop. I'll make sure to leave it down below. Last time I checked, it was still available there, and you could also get this directly from the artist. This is a Greek mythology-inspired tarot deck. So here are the backs. And we have golden edges. So not only is it Greek mythology inspired, it's also heavily inspired by Persephone, the story of Persephone, which is my jam. One of my favorite deities, one of my favorite stories. I love Persephone as a myth. I love working with her. I navigate the waters of chronic pain, chronic illness. So for me, Persephone is a deity that I like working with as a reminder of life cycles, of the fact that sometimes I'm in a phase of my life where I'm in the underground and I have zero energy and I can't do anything, and my dynamic disability is, you know, claiming my life full force. And sometimes I'm in my springtime and I can enjoy life and do things. Having to navigate chronic pain, chronic illness, it has absolutely affected my vision on life, and it has also taught me to accept the fact that I have to live through cycles of death and rebirth, death and rebirth. And so working with Persephone is something that personally for my own life has helped a lot, and of course a deck that speaks to that is always going to be close to my heart. So that's one of the reasons why this is so high up. The other reason is, come on, can you see this? This is stunning. This is stunning. Another one that has eclipsed all of my other Greek decks, tarot decks. I have quite a big mythology collection, which I've promised you guys to do a video about one day, and I will. I'll definitely do that next year. This year I've not used any other Greek tarot decks but this. This has been the best. I love all of the choices that they've put for each of the cards. We have different myths, different divinities, different people. Here we have Atalante for the Page of Wands. We have Pegasus for the Knight of Wands. I mean, everything here, all the choices are genius. The artwork is stunning. The guidebook explains a little bit who they are. Very short, so if you're not familiar with Greek mythology, I would recommend you do your own research on the side, because the guidebook definitely won't be enough. But it gives you like pointers, and then you can do your own research. In terms of the deck in itself, though, it's so beautiful. I love this so much. I know a few people got this after they saw it on my channel, because I had a few messages from you guys. I know that you guys love it, which makes me very happy. It always makes me happy when you can find a deck that you resonate with. And yeah, this is a deck I've used a ton this year for myself. It's my go-to Greek mythology deck now. I love this so much. So of course it had to be part of my top 3. Haven't really used this for you guys. It's one I've kept for myself. But this is a delightful tarot deck that works for so many themes that I'm definitely gonna start using it for you guys. And I'm actually gonna use this for January 2025 pick a card. So if you want to see how it reads, I encourage you to watch out for that. I'll make sure to read for you guys in my January monthly reading. I think I'm gonna make it mythology inspired, as I have so many cool mythology decks I want to share with you guys. So we'll do that, it'll be fun. Okay, at number 2 we have our silver medal, and I could not help myself. Okay, I think I've done pretty good this year. Not too many ties. I've tried to keep it to 10, but honestly I could not, for my top 2, decide between these two. So I decided that I would give myself a little grace and allow one tie. For my number 2, I actually have 2 options. I really couldn't differentiate between them. They are both special in their own way. So please give me grace. Don't be mad at me that I have 2 options. It means more choice for you guys too, more enjoyment. So we're here for it. At number 2, like I said, it's a tie. The first one is a deck that blew me away, probably one of the biggest revelations for me this year. And I know I'm coming to this deck way after everyone. It is the Gentle Tarot by Mary in the Sky. This is another indie deck, and I know I'm one of the last people on earth to get this, okay? Everyone was raving about this a year or 2 ago. I'm late to the game, but you know what? Better late than never. So it's a nature-inspired deck, and this is the reason why Tarot Landscape was lower, because this has completely taken over all of my other nature-inspired decks this year. This has been my go-to deck. Anytime I want to connect to nature, anytime I want something gentle, anytime I want something healing, anytime I want a hug. Also for reading for others, if you want to bring some gentle energy to your reading, if you want to bring groundedness of healing, this is such a beautiful deck, you guys. It is carrying its name so well. The Gentle Tarot does have special energies. The egregore of this feels so loving. This is really medicine in a deck, really. That's the best way I can say it. And I know I came to this way later than everyone. I know that a lot of people had this as their favorites a year or 2 ago. I have this very bad habit that when a deck is very hype, I tend to run in the opposite direction. And then this year I was like, okay, you know what, it's time for me to work with this deck. I want to make my own opinion. I keep seeing images. I love nature deck. I really want to make my own opinion of this. One thing I will say is believe the hype, because this is truly so special. This is one of my most used deck of the year. I've used it constantly for myself, for other people. The guidebook is fantastic. I have this edition, which is on linen cardstock, so you don't get a full guidebook, you get little cards with keywords, but you can get the guidebook PDF. I've stored it on my phone. I reference it constantly. You can get this deck in different editions. You can get this linen cardstock like I have, other type of cardstock in a more, I think, deluxe version, in a pocket version. I know that Mary has just done a Kickstarter for an Oracle for this, which of course I back. I will definitely back any future projects from her. I really have been blown away by how much I love this. I got this one from A Rifle in Time, my friend Cassandra's shop. She has a shop in America. She stores indie and mass market decks. You should definitely check it out. We love a small business here. We love to support small businesses. So I'll make sure to leave again all the shops I shop from. We'll make sure to link in the description box where you can get all these decks, either directly the indie artists that sell their decks, because it's important we get them from trusting sources instead of buying, you know, fake decks and knockoff. So I'll make sure to leave all the links to the artists, and I'll make sure to leave also the links to the small businesses I like to shop from, one of them being A Rifle in Time, the lovely Cassandra, thanks to who I could get my hands on this. And this has been a huge favorite this year. Like I said, it has seen me through any bad patch, any rough patch, anytime I needed a hug from the universe, anytime I needed something sweet and gentle, anytime I needed to ground, to come back to my body, to come back to myself, to remind myself that despite the chaos and the harshness of life, there is beauty, there is kindness, there is ways to just come back and see joy, right? To see the light. This definitely helped me through that. If this was a Major Arcana, this would be a star card deck. It gives you hope, it gives you light, it gives you grace and compassion. One deck that I would happily gift to all of my friends. Like, this is definitely not just sharing a deck that I feel very passionate about because it speaks to my heart, but this is another one that I would feel very confident recommending to anyone who's interested in tarot. I think anyone who is interested in working with tarot could benefit with working with this deck, truly. This is a recommendation as well, not just a favorite. It's a recommendation to say, if you're just a little bit curious about this, then try it. I have no regrets. Look at me. I came to it later than everyone, and it was the perfect timing. I'm glad I listened to my intuition and came to it in my own time, because it was the perfect timing. As always, everything is always in perfect timing. Her words are beautiful. I love the accompanying guidebook. I even love the opening intention and closing intention that she has added to the deck. If you want to pause, just read that. It will tell you a little bit already how it reads and kind of like the vibe of the deck, and I think already you get an idea here of how healing this deck is. So beautiful work by Mary in the Sky. Very excited about the upcoming Oracle. The other deck I've put at number 2, which is a tie, is not gonna be a surprise. I think a lot of you guys are expecting to see this in my top 10. We have the Bimit Tarot, or Big Mice Tarot, by Owl and Ezd, another indie deck. I believe they are based in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. Here are the backs, and as the name suggests, this is a deck all about cute mice. So this deck completely blew me away, because I'm even a mouse person, okay? I think they're cute, but they're not my favorite animal in the world, right? I have other animals that I find more enchanting. And yes, this completely blew me away this year by the world building, first of all, because this is creating a whole world. Each of the mouse represented here have names. In the guidebook, it will tell you their name. We have a whole world with different places. They are all part of different tribes, and there's a map. There's a whole world building. There's stories with these little creatures going on adventures. They have created a whole world around this. It's like reading a fantasy book, but in card form, and I love that. I'm a huge fantasy lover, so when people go through extremes at creating a whole world building behind the cards, with maps, with stories, with different regions and different, like, you know, clans and things, I'm so here for that. So that's the first thing that really made me fall in love with the deck, is the world building. The second thing is that this is adorable. I think the artwork is so cute. It's very sweet. It speaks to my inner child, so I'm enchanted already. The world fantasy, something fantasy, beautiful world building, gorgeous artwork. I'm here. The one thing that I did not expect, and the reason why this is so high up in my yearly favorite, is because this was a lot more emotional than I thought. Like, I originally thought this was gonna be cute and fantasy and sweet. I did not expect these little creatures to give me strength and to help me, again, get through some tough times, and to read in a way that was a lot more powerful than I thought. Because all of these little creatures face challenges. They face a world where they're the smallest creatures. They have to face snakes and foxes and creatures that are way bigger than them, and yet because they continue on quests and they go on adventure and they fight and they stand up for themselves, when you read with this deck, you see them going through the challenges and going on quests and going on adventure, and it does give you courage to do that for yourself. Seeing them stand up against life challenges makes you want to stand up for your own challenges. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like seeing those little creatures getting through life difficulties and still trying their hardest to pursue and to go after what they want and to like follow their heart. It makes you want to do the same thing for you. This is a deck full of courage. It's full of courage, it's full of hope, it's full of adventure. Obviously it speaks to your inner child, but I think it also can go deeper than that. I had wonderful readings with this one. It's so special, not just for me, but I've read with this for other people as well and they loved it. It feels like it has so much to say. Like I said, each character has a name and it feels like they can tell you their story. It's really a beautiful, incredible work, and I think the creators can be so proud. They've done a fantastic job. They have done this year a second Kickstarter with another tarot deck in a similar world, similar vibe, so of course I backed it. You know me, when I like an artist, I'm like, yeah, I'll support you, take my money. So I'm excited to see next year if their newest deck will also be part of my favorite, or if this will remain forever in my heart as the number one. Love this so much. I think it's unique, I think it's charming, it's enchanting, but it's also full of bravery and courage, and I completely fallen in love with this one. Really, truly a beautiful work here. Okay, you guys, number one, my top one spot for 2024 is gonna be a shock because I called it. Right at the beginning of 2024, I said, I think it was January, and I said, I think I found my 2024 best deck. And guess what? I was right. Literally first month, and here we are in December, and I was correct in foretelling that this could be my favorite deck of the year, because I still feel so strongly about this just as I did back in January, and that's how you know a deck has made a long-lasting impression on you. So let's talk about the Dreams Within Dreams Tarot. This is an indie deck by Intentions Within. I got this on Etsy originally. It comes with a little guidebook. We have a little bit of a write-up for the majors and we have less for the minors. We still have upward and reverse meaning. Honestly, I've not really paid too much attention to the guidebook. I've read it once and then I let myself read intuitively because I was just so enchanted by the artwork. So here are the backs. First of all, gorgeous production quality. This is indie price, but you feel like it's indie production. You know, you have this beautiful gold holo on the back, you have a beautiful matte gold edging. At the time of me buying this, which was end of last year, I could choose at the time on the Etsy shop if I wanted gold or silver. I don't know if that's still the case, but at the time you could. It has this beautiful matte cardstock, production quality 10 out of 10. So the reason why this is at number one is because I fell in love with the artwork, completely head over heels with this artwork, and it's because it's so me. It's fantasy inspired, it's a magic world. We have a lot of like fantasy creatures, we have beautiful magical landscape, and that just speaks to my soul. I'm a huge fantasy girly. I read 100% fantasy books. Most of them, the things I watch are fantasy TV shows and fantasy like video games. This fantasy is my jam, okay? And then obviously like the things adjacent to that, so romantasy, sci-fi, all of this idea of stepping into another world, escaping the world we live in, that's very much me. So this deck feels like my favorite fantasy books, all my favorite fantasy video games in a deck. That's it. It's just an aesthetic that really pleases me. And that's the one reason why it's at number one. I constantly was excited to pick this up. I never wanted to put this down. This was a huge surprise because this is another collaborative deck. You can tell different artists worked on this, and yet exception to the rule. I don't know why with this particular vibe. It's another world, it's taking you through a portal. It works for me. It's a different art style. I think there's 4 or 5 creators behind this, 100% women and LGBTQIA plus creators, so I love that, and also 100% BIPOC creators, so I love that as well. And I think you can really feel the different voices behind this deck, which makes it also very special because it feels like it has stories to tell. I really can't tell you why I love this deck so much. It's definitely an emotional connection to, like I was saying, a genre of books, video games, worlds, media in general that I love, that speaks to me. Every reading I've done for any kind of type of reading, whether it's career reading, love reading, day-to-day reading, spiritual reading, this was fantastic. I've read with this for myself, I've read with this for others, I read with this on my channel, I took it to my friends. This was my go-to. I never wanted to put it down, and that's when I know that a deck excites me. It's because I don't get bored. I love changing my tarot decks depending on the mood I'm in, depending on the theme I want to read with. I'm not that kind of person that works with one deck for a month. I can't do that. I get bored, but I will be working with a deck for several months in a row. I just need them to be interchanged, interswapped for the different moons I'm in. And yet this one, all year long, I kept going back to. I never got bored of it. I never wanted to put it down. I never thought, oh, I don't want to read with this one, I want to change. No. That tells me that this is a favorite. And again, it's very personal because I know this is not everyone's cup of tea at all, and this is why this video is really not a recommendations video. Would I recommend this to the collective, to everyone, to the general public? Not really, because this is so specific to what I like. But for me, I love it. I love it. It enchants me. It reminds me of like just things I love, and I think it's magical. So this is the Dreams Within Dreams Tarot. If I'm being honest, this is a deck I never wanted to let go of, and that tells me it's the favorite. So here you have it, my top 3 here, plus all of the other ones that we've talked about in this video. We've wrapped up my top 10 tarot decks of the year. So now it's your turn. First off, if you've made it this far, please leave a little mouse emoji in the comments so that I know you've watched it till the end. It will make me super happy. If you feel called to, I would love to hear what are your top decks of 2024. You don't have to give me top 10, I know that's a lot, but you can give me top 1, top 2, top 3. I would love to hear it. If you enjoyed this video, then please don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Are all ways to support my work, and I appreciate those of you who take the time to do that so much. If you enjoyed this top 10 tarot decks, then definitely watch out for my future top 10 oracle decks. We have a lot of amazing oracle decks I want to talk about with you guys this year, and actually the ranking was easier for my oracle decks. I want to take a little moment to thank you guys for being here, for your presence, your support this year and all the other years. Honestly, you make my life definitely brighter, so I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank all of these creators as well for their amazing work, for putting their work out there, for their creativity, their imagination. It's so special, and I feel so grateful I get to work with all of these beautiful decks. And until my next video, I'm sending you so much good vibes. Take good care of yourself, keep navigating the waves of your soul, and I'll see you soon, internet. Bye!